On November 4th, mainland Chinese media reported that the American tech company SAS is withdrawing from China and laying off all 400 of its employees there. The company requires each employee to sign a termination agreement by November 14th. An employee at SAS Institute in Beijing said the company announced the decision on October 30th through an internal email and a short video conference. The simplified Chinese version of SAS's official website is now offline, and job postings no longer list positions in China. SAS entered the Chinese market in 1999 and opened a research and development center, along with a user support center, in Beijing in 2005. It was named China's best employer for 17 straight years, earning praise for its generous benefits and corporate culture. In response to the growing number of foreign companies leaving China in recent years, self-media vloggers on mainland Chinese social media platforms have voiced frustration and reacted strongly. Why should we let foreigners earn our money? Why should we let them take our market? These questions sound inspiring, but can they really bring progress? If we follow this logic, we've already pushed many foreign companies and tourists out, and now the number of foreign visitors has dropped back to the level it was in the 1970s. Is this really going to drive innovation? Let's take a look at some classic examples. NEC no longer makes TVs. They've pivoted to AI and self-driving cars. Toshiba no longer makes TVs. They focus on CT scanners and MRIs. Fuji no longer makes film. They've moved into stem cell separation machines. IBM stopped making personal computers and dove into quantum processors. Now, compare that to Chinese companies during the same period. Hisense is still making TVs. Lenovo is still making computers, and Baidu is still making money from search engine ads. Let's also look at the foreign companies that left China. Samsung may be gone, but outside of China, it's still the world's top seller. Amazon may have pulled out, but it's still the world's biggest e-commerce platform. Google may not be here, but it's still the world's strongest search engine. So, what does all this tell us? The truth is, the reality of this world is that you're not as important as you think. The vlogger stated that ignorance and adversity stem not from foreign companies or so-called enemies, but from those untouchable individuals. A small vendor may drive out rivals in a market and seem to dominate it, yet in the end, they rely on their own employees to buy goods, falsely calling it internal circulation. The core issue is whether China has an open and cooperative mindset and the ability to compete globally. If it keeps rejecting foreign companies, thinking isolation brings strength, it will lose both the market and the drive for innovation. The real enemy has never been outsiders, but the CCP's short-sightedness and fear. Some netizens noted that although the vlogger avoided names, the target was obvious. On mainland platforms, such outspokenness is bold. The video could be removed, and the vlogger invited for a chat. This shows that the impact of foreign companies leaving China has affected all levels of society. On June 30th, a dissolution announcement for Celestica sparked a stir on social media. It was one of the best foreign companies in Dongguan, leaving many former employees feeling regretful. Celestica is a global leader in electronic manufacturing services, headquartered in Toronto, Canada. The company is listed on the New York and Toronto stock exchanges. It separated from IBM Canada in 1994 and reported revenue of $6 billion in 2017. Celestica established its Dongguan operations in 2004 in the Songshan Lake area, with registered capital of $32.5 million. The company focused on producing and researching high-end electronic products, such as computers and communication equipment. At its peak, it employed nearly 10,000 people. Celestica operates across China in Shanghai, Suzhou, Dongguan, and Xiamen. It also had sites in Hong Kong and Taiwan, and was one of the largest employers of Canadian nationals in China. For many IT workers in China, Celestica represented the height of employee benefits and a dream workplace for countless professionals. After more than 20 years of development, it is now closing. One vlogger stated that authorities often threaten damage, even if it harms themselves. After being brainwashed, many people join the clamor, but the result is always the same. They end up hurting themselves. Why are wages so low for ordinary people now? Why does everyone feel like their income isn't enough to cover the expenses? The simple answer is that foreign investment has been scared away, and the bosses have given up. It's that simple. When private business owners quit and foreign companies pull out, it leads to two problems. First, when private bosses quit, it means many jobs disappear. Second, when foreign companies pull out, It means the high standards in the industry for the same job are gone. When job positions decrease, it means more people are competing for fewer positions, and each position may end up with people stepping on each other. Your wages can only go down, not up. As for the foreigners, haven't many people with their heads stuck in the door been saying how much they've gained in China these past few years? Now many foreign companies have pulled out, and with them, these three high companies, high benefits, high income, and high security, are gone. Without them, we don't have high standards in the industry anymore. All we'll have left are the low standards, and in the end, won't it still be the regular workers who are left holding the bill? Think about it. Doesn't that sound like shooting ourselves in the foot? As foreign companies withdraw from China, many lower-income individuals, misled by the authorities' corrupt education system, fail to see the truth. Netizens feel compelled once again to educate them, hoping they will recognize the real enemy.
一会儿拒绝外国人进酒店来我们这里消费。
One moment, we're rejecting foreigners from coming to hotels to spend money here, and the next, we're cheering on the exit of foreign companies from China. Behind all this, there's actually a choice we'll have to make sooner or later. Should we choose to open up or to close off? If you choose to close off, then keep opposing Japan and the US. Anyway, people can spend whatever they want, and they can invest elsewhere. It's not necessarily less profitable than doing business here. They don't have to come here. I know some of you will say, I welcome tourists from every country, but I don't welcome Japanese people. Is that so wrong? Well, yes, it is. If you choose openness, then you can't hate anyone. If you choose to close off, then start with hating the first one. Don't worry. Once you hate the first one, the second will follow, and before long, the whole world will be your enemy. I know someone will say, but the Japanese killed so many of our people. Shouldn't we remember history? I'm not saying we should forget that history, but I think what we should really remember is the shame from that history, not that hatred. Why did we get beaten back then? Wasn't it because we were closed off and technologically behind? If we choose to close off again, aren't we just repeating the mistakes of the past? The vlogger said that if people wonder whether to hold hatred, they should look at World War II. Would Poles today refuse Germans in their hotels? Would Americans bar Japanese from vacationing in Hawaii? Germany's Blitzkrieg killed many Poles, and Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor stirred deep animosity between the United States and Japan. Yet these nations have moved past hatred to face the future, while we remain trapped in the shadows of the past. The vlogger suggested that the government has long promoted hatred toward Japan and the United States, causing many to see America as the most evil country. Yet few realize that, to this day, the nation that has helped China the most remains little known.
我告诉你，不是什么巴铁好兄弟，更不是你以为的俄罗斯。
I'm telling you, it's not some iron brother Pakistan, and certainly not the Russia you think it is. This is the country that once helped us resist Japanese aggression, that sent the Flying Tigers to fully support our war efforts. This is a country that helped us develop education, helped us establish Yenqing University, and unconditionally believed in us, helping us to join the WTO and turning us into the world's factory, making our economic rise possible. That's right, it's the United States, the homeland of the Flying Tigers and John Leighton Stewart. So the enemy you think you have might not actually be your enemy, and the friend you think you have might not really be your friend. Never decide who to welcome or not welcome based on government stances, and never decide who to support or oppose based on personal opinions. The vlogger concluded by saying that some may ask, how do we determine who is a friend and who is an enemy? He stated that the answer should be based on civilization and justice.
所以，如果你用立场决定态度，就一定会导致。
If we base our attitude on personal opinions, it will inevitably lead to isolation. I've never seen a country where its butt decides what's in its head and still manages to have many friends. The only way forward is to stick to the spirit of contracts and embrace openness and inclusivity. In the past, we missed the age of exploration because of our isolation. Then we missed the Industrial Revolution. If we hadn't chosen to reform and open up in time, we might have missed the internet age as well. If we had missed all of that, do you know what our lives would be like today? If you've been to Africa or visited some of China's still poor, remote mountain areas, you definitely feel what life would be like if we hadn't made those choices. A netizen agreed that the vlogger was mostly right, with one exception. The Flying Tigers' aid to China against Japanese aggression was an act of civilization and justice. However, the United States made a grave error in supporting China's entry into the WTO. By then, China was already communist. America hoped economic growth would lead naturally to a free and democratic society, but this proved naive. Not only has communist China failed to change, It has disrupted global trade order and weakened world civilization. Fortunately, nations worldwide are awakening to the true nature of the Chinese Communist Party and seeing which countries and regimes align with it. One netizen conveyed this through facts.
今天不聊观点，就说一个事实。我由于工作的原因啊。
Today, I'm not here to discuss opinions, just a fact. Because of my job, I often work with American, German, Korean, Japanese, and Taiwanese companies. I actually hope that in my work, I could also encounter Russian, North Korean, Syrian, and Iranian companies. Recently, I've been looking at some data, and I see many foreign companies are pulling out, and there are people shouting that it's fine, that it'll be better for us once they leave. Well, if you want things to get better here, then let's hope our old friends, Russia, North Korea, Iran, and the Taliban come to China to invest more. If they come, we can all make more from globalization, and I'll be able to do more business with global companies. Isn't that how it works? On August 28th, Foxconn Group's subsidiary, Hongfujin Precision Industry, announced it no longer had enough orders to sustain operations and would cease them at the end of the month. Thousands of factory employees now face unemployment. This closure signals Foxconn's ongoing contraction in central China's industrial landscape. Notably, in late July 2024, Foxconn Technology Group invested 1 billion RMB into Zhenzhou, Henan, to build a new headquarters, expand its supply chain, and attract more orders. Yet, just 1 year later, the group's subsidiary, Hongfujin Precision Industries' Hanyang factory, announced its closure. This sharp contrast underscores a trend of foreign companies in China shifting industries and draws widespread attention. An industry professional noted that Foxconn's ties to the Chinese Communist Party are highly complex. It is difficult for Foxconn to break free from the party's control and coercion, which may involve some senior executives being compromised or having their personal information held by the CCP, a tactic the party employs with skill. In 2024, after Foxconn initially planned to withdraw from China, it returned to invest in the mainland, likely due to pressure from high-level CCP officials. However, with a formal outbreak of the US-China trade war this year, Foxconn once again faces the dilemma of choosing sides. Moreover, Taiwanese enterprises must also contend with the increasingly tense cross-strait relations. Therefore, from a broader perspective, Foxconn is likely to fully withdraw from China eventually, as it has limited room for maneuver in the face of the US-China binary choice. Foxconn can be considered a representative Taiwanese company investing in China, and among the wave of foreign companies withdrawing. Taiwanese firms are one of the most prominent sectors.
这个地方你们熟悉吗？你们知道有多少台湾企业？
Are you familiar with this place? Do you know how many Taiwanese companies have left here? How much longer can the ones that are still here hold on? Before 2020, Taiwanese companies in Kunshan were really impressive. 70% of the world's laptops were produced here. Apple and Dell were lining up to have them assemble their products, and bosses were counting money until their hands cramped. What was their slogan? Overtime, crazy overtime, orders, take on all the orders. But in recent years, rents have gone up, employee wages have gone up, raw material costs have risen, environmental inspections have tightened, and many orders have moved to Vietnam. It used to be Kunshan speed, but now it's Kunshan difficulty. Nowadays, businesses not only have to consider raw material costs, labor costs, transport costs, and logistics costs, but they also have to think about safety. That's why many Taiwanese companies have no choice but to move their operations to Southeast Asia. Another vlogger also witnessed a rapid decline of Kunshan after the withdrawal of Taiwanese capital.
Do you know which factories have moved out of Kunshan? Since this year, several factories here, like Foxconn, Compal, and Wistron, have moved out, and I've clearly noticed that our area has become much quieter. I used to go to the small shops, and the owners were always cheerful and happy, but now when I see them, they are all down in the dumps. And now the breakfast shops, lunch spots, even the clothing stores, business is all down, and foot traffic has dropped a lot. I can definitely feel that this area, which used to be very lively, has lost much of its energy. Even my own store, business has slowed down a lot. Actually, Kunshan as a whole was built around all these factories. I feel that every factory not only provides many job opportunities for people working inside the factories, but also offers a lot of opportunities for people like us who run the small businesses. So we genuinely thank every factory that has set up shop in Kunshan. But when they move or relocate, it's honestly a very sad thing for us.
A brave netizen pointed out the root cause of the foreign capital withdrawal and China's economic woes, directly blaming the authorities.
为什么有些人对外资撤离、民企倒闭
Why is it that some people couldn't care less about issues like the withdrawal of foreign companies, the collapse of private businesses, employment difficulties, disruptions in foreign trade, or the decoupling between China and the US? Some even oppose the free competition and open policies promoted by the market economy, leading towards a return to a relatively closed development model. The reason is that the economic challenges brought about by free competition, like difficulties in starting businesses, market downturns, and falling incomes, have very little impact on them and often don't touch their fundamental interests. While these issues and their negative consequences will ultimately be borne by society as a whole, their losses are minimal. In fact, they might even gain more from the concentrated allocation of resources. The lower the level of free competition, the more resources are concentrated in specific groups, and the advantages they hold become even more obvious. What do you think? One netizen noted that the CCP does not truly want foreign capital to leave, since its plan for leapfrog development to challenge the world remains unfinished, with only a short distance left. Yet the CCP's core nature opposes the free world led by the United States. Once it feels strong enough to disrupt global order, it drops all pretense and reveals its rogue instincts. The free world then sees the truth and pushes back, sparking the trade war. The trade war has driven Western nations to pull investments from China. To hold power, the CCP brainwashes citizens with hardline rhetoric, hiding foreign policy failures and economic mismanagement. This leads to an absurd cycle. The more it fears capital flight, the more it feigns indifference, and the faster companies exit. Meanwhile, citizens increasingly see that the stones the authorities lift fall on their own feet. Those who know the truth no longer stay silent and speak out. In the end, everybody realizes the force that will topple the CCP is the CCP itself.